Hello crafty people, it's Sharon here again, and I'm back with episode 3 of my quick card stroke batch making Christmas card videos. So today I thought I would drop by and show you a very quick and easy technique which I'm going to use a bit of stenciling, a bit of stamping and some die cut characters that I've already got, and I'll explain a bit more about those in a moment for you. So these are 6x6 cards, and basically I've made a bunch of toppers all the same and added my characters. So just to give you a flavour, there's one card for you. These are slightly decoupage but just pressed down so that they don't breach that 5mm allowance that we have in the UK for small cards. And what you'll notice on these, that the background is the same on every single one. I've just changed the characters around. So there's another one with a little girl. That's another one the same with a little girl. And these are from Tattered Lace, these little people. It's a set called Magical Moments that was released for Christmas last year. I have had a look on Highlight Crafts and it appears to be out of stock at the moment, but the printable vignettes are still there, and I've had a look around on eBay and there are the die sets for sale around and about eBay if you want to have a look for those. Otherwise you don't have to use these characters, you could use anything that you've got that fits around the tree, or you could use some of the Lavinia silhouette stamps or character stamps to go around the side of the tree. So this is just to give you ideas. I just happen to use these because I had them already die cut and printed, but as you can see there are lots of little characters in different colours and even some dogs. There's reindeer, snowmen, all sorts of things. It's a really lovely set if you can get hold of it, so have a look around if that takes your fancy. Meanwhile, let's quickly make a topper. I'm just going to put those out the way for a moment. I've cut a piece of white card which is 14 centimetres square, and there it is. And I am going to use one of my favourite Lavinia stencils, which is this. It is a floral one, but to me it kind of looks a bit snowflakey, so we're going to use that. We're going to use two distress inks and one Elements ink that I forgot to get out, so I'm just going to grab that. There we go, I've got it. So I'm using Blue Atoll from the Elements. The reason why I'm using this in addition to my distress inks is purely because my distress inks are drying up a little bit. So these are nice and juicy, so for the point of view of speed, I'm going to use this to create most of my background. I'm also going to use my favourite extra, which is a bit of torn card. So I'm just going to put that in position on my base card first of all. I'm just going to put it a little way up, not as far as a third, just sort of somewhere about 1.5 inches up from the bottom. And I'm just trying to grab a bit of tape so that I can just stick that down a little bit, saves it wobbling around. And then I'm going to place my stencil over the top. Now the reason why I've got this as batch making is because that was 6 cards that I showed you, and what I did was I made 6 backgrounds first following this, but doing the same step 6 times over. So I'm only making one for this point, for this purpose, but you could obviously do this 6 times over, then go on to the next stage and do it again and again and again. So taking my Elements ink pad, I'm going to just pick up some of that ink. I'm going to blot it in my lid because these are notorious for being very juicy, and starting at the bottom I'm going to just start rubbing my ink on, and I'm doing this quite randomly. I don't want a square border, so to speak. I just want something that shows that sort of icicle pattern but fades out towards the edges. And it doesn't matter if it's a bit blotchy. it just adds to the texture and the feel of the piece. That's the good part. We don't have to get too caught up on the whole blending thing. And of course, because I've put my bit of card below, I'm keeping the base clean for my next step, which is the snowy ground. So I'm just picking it up and have a look. I don't know how well it's showing here. It's such a horrible weekend here in the UK. We've got rain, darkness, very high dangerous winds. So I have got my light on, but it's not the best, so I apologise for that, but hopefully you get the idea. There we go. So my stenciling is now done, and then I might put another piece down and another, and so on. So just get that out of the way. I'm now going to move on to my distress inks. I've got Hickory Smoke in just a regular distress, and I've got Broken China. You could carry on using the elements if you want to. I just chose that for just a slightly different blue. I'm just going to solidify the top of my snowy bank by picking some of my Hickory Smoke and using my tiny Lavinia brush. This is a size 3. It's quite a stiff brush, so it's quite good for this kind of thing. And I'm just adding a little bit, which is effectively going to create a bit of shadow on the top there. There we go. Hopefully when I remove that, you'll be able to see there's a bit of a line there. Now I'm going to use this piece of card, or possibly another piece. Let me have a look and see what I've got. Yeah, I'm going to use a slightly different shape piece to make some drifts and things in the snow. So, sorry, this is a bit impromptu, so if I'm umming and ahhing a bit, it's because I just suddenly decided to do this on a whim, so please bear with me. I'm going to open up my Broken China, and using a separate brush I'm going to do exactly the same. So I'm dabbing into my Broken China ink pad, and I'm going to just create a little snowdrift. In that blue, and if that looks a little bit solid, what you can do is then just go over the top, up the edge, up the top like that, and it really gives a lovely airbrushed effect. And on this occasion I'm going kind of edge to edge, and that ink will move for a second or two, so you can do that. Then I'm going back to my grey Hickory Smoke, and I'm going to add that on the bottom, but not bring it out as far. And what that does, it brings a bit more of again, that airbrushed kind of effect, and a bit more of a 3D effect, 3-dimensional. And on the edges I'm just bringing that grey out a little bit more, as if there's shadow coming from the side. You can even move it around a bit, and there you can see we've got a nice depth of colour without losing our white. So it's a really nice technique to use those two colours. Now I'm going to flip my bit of paper over, and I'm going to make another drift just over here. So I'm going to go back to my blue, follow the same process. So I'm trying to make it so that I'm not making the same pattern on every snowdrift. Dip back in if you feel like you want a little bit more colour. And then blend away, just to soften that on the edges if you want to. And then returning to my grey Hickory Smoke. Elements Graphite would also work well for this, if you've got that from Lavinia. I wouldn't go with a black, it's too harsh. You want a soft grey. In Crafters Companion Harmony, Anthracite is a good one to go to. Okay, and I've got a large bit there, so I'm just going to fill that one in. And when you do this, although you might do them time and time again, every single one's going to come out slightly different, so which is nice. There we go. And just back with my grey. And if you pull your stencil away, your piece of card away when you've just done one colour and compare it, you'll notice it makes a huge difference to the look of the piece. Now I've got a very solid white line on the bottom here, so my next step is just to go around the bottom there. I might have put a bit much ink on there, but it'll all work out. Just to put some sort of edge to that area. And then using up the excess just to blend and soften. There we go. And back to the hickory smoke. And I'm just going to add a little touch of that. I'm not even doing it all the way along, I'm just sort of dibbing in and out on the edge of my bit of paper. There we go. And now we have our snowdrifts. So just take a second to put those out of the way. And I'll just zoom in quickly so you can get a close-up of the snowdrifts, and hopefully you can see a little bit better there that there's the pale blue and then we've added the grey in the bottom, and they work and blend together and make a lovely effect, and you get a good view of the stencil effect as well now that I've zoomed it in, so you can see it's not dead square. I've just gone randomly around. Okay, so the next step is that we're going to put our tree in, and for that I'm using VersaFine in black. You could also use VersaFine in green, would look nice. That Shady Lane would look nice as well if you want a more greeny coloured tree, or even Twilight Blue would look nice. So I'm just going to grab my stamping platform and put my piece of card in. Now, because every one of these might be slightly different, unless you marked it out on graph paper like I showed you in my previous video, your tree may not always need to be in the same place. So what I tend to do is put my piece of card flush against the left edge of my stamping platform, but leave some space at the top so that I've got room to maneuver up and down. That way, when I put my tree on my stamp pad, when I'm going to print extra pieces of card, I can move the card rather than having to peel off the tree. So that's just a little tip that you might find helpful. Of course, this time I'm only doing the one, so it's not going to hurt. So this is my stamp. It is called LAV834 Christmas Joy. Now there are two trees like this. This is a smaller one. The other one is much bigger and wouldn't fit on a 6x6 card. So if you want to do this technique, you need the smaller version. So I'm going to just place this randomly in the middle of my card. I'm going to leave room for a sentiment up the top, and it's just going to be a simple one that says Season's Greetings. So let's have a look. Might just bring it down like that so that it's got room. And this is another woodware set of Christmas greetings, and this one is called FRM065 Christmas Extras. I love these because they're always different fonts and they're just sort of playful and nice, not too formal, so I quite like these. Let's go back and stamp our tree first. So I'm just going to secure my bit of card a bit more. This background would also look really lovely if you do character colouring and you want to cut one out. I'm thinking of polka doodles, characters, that kind of thing. Would work really well against this background, but without the tree. I'm just thinking take the tree out and put the character in. Right, so I'm just stamping up with my Nocturne VersaFine and give that a stamp and rub it with my stamp press. Okay, I'm going to give that another go just to make it a little bit blacker, but it really doesn't matter too much. There we go, we have a lovely tree, and the next step is going to be to put my sentiment on. So I'm just going to take a moment to clean off my stamp because I'm about to peel it off and I don't want to get residual ink on my fingers that's then going to transfer onto my lovely white piece of card. So even if you don't give them the full cleaning treatment, it's a good idea to get the worst off before you carry on with the next part. I'm just going to grab my sentiment, and I think I said I was going to go Season's Greetings. So I'm putting that in place, eyeballing it just to see if it looks okay. You can spend a bit more time if you wish. Just going to move those magnets out of the way so that I can see whether I've placed it relatively evenly in the middle, and I think I have. So I'm going to quickly put that down and give that a quick stamp. There we go, and that's our stamping done. Okay, let's zoom out a little bit. Now this has got these lovely little baubles all over it, so I'm going to colour those in with some metallic pens. The ones that I've got are Pentel pens, which I got off of Amazon, but they've got all sorts of glitter pens on there, and of course you've got your Sakura and all those kind of things as well. So I'm just going to randomly pick a few that I think might work nicely. So I've got a red, a blue and a gold. You could go pretty monochromatic if you wanted to, and I'm just going to start colouring them in. And I'm going to try and be fairly random, so I'm dotting around, picking stamps here and there, and this will cover any inking that you've done underneath in terms of that stenciling, so it's quite nice. I think actually what I've done, I haven't done that before, I've kind of made as if they're going around the tree. I quite like that, so let's leave that there. And then I'm going to go with my blue. And again, I'm trying to be fairly random and not create too much of a pattern. And I'm going to pick up my gold. So basically I'm creating a multicolour tree, which is supposed to be a thing of wonder that my characters have stumbled across in the forest. There we go. Now my tree looks like it's floating a little bit at the moment, so I'm going to go back to my hickory smoke, and I'm just going to ground that for a second, otherwise I'll forget. And the way I'm doing that is, again, just taking my thin size 3 Lavinia brush. I'm taking it and just swiping from side to side, starting a little bit above the base and then bringing that down, topping up if I need to, just very gently. And then I'm just making a bit of a extension to that shadow, as if it's casting a little bit of a shadow. And I don't even know if you'll be able to see that, but to the human eye, I'm trying to make it a bit darker there, you'll be able to see that. There we go. And we'll come back to that in a minute to ground our characters when we put those in as well. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to edge my my topper with a bit of doodling. And I've got a uni pin pen and it is size 03. Similar pens are any fine liner pen basically. There are, oh, I can't even think what they're called now. There's some quite expensive ones. These ones, I think, I don't know, I probably got them in a stationery shop or something, and I find they're absolutely fine. They come in different thicknesses. 03 is quite good. I usually go with 02 or 03 when I'm doing this kind of thing. And what I'm doing is just dragging from top to bottom a slightly wobbly line. I'm not holding my pen too close because I don't want too much control. And I'm just going around each and every side. And then the magic happens when you do that again a second time and you start to wibble and wobble a bit more. And then you start to build up a really nice little border. Really easy to do, but such an effective trick if you feel like your topper is looking a little bit too plain. There we go. So that's that done, and that's really, you could actually leave that card just like that with no characters on whatsoever and it would still be a lovely card. But I'm going to add the characters because I've got them here, and just so I can sort of demonstrate how I do it. I've picked a dog and a little girl. So I'm going to have the little girl putting a bauble on the tree, and the dog's going to be sitting there looking at her, all excited. He wants to grab the baubles on the tree. I might put him down there, and I'm going to give him a little bit of dimension just by using a ball tool. So if I just put this to the side for a second, I'm going to very quickly give these a little go with my ball tool. This one is fairly small. It's probably about 6 or 7 millimeters wide, and I'm just going to start in the middle of my character to give him a little bit of a round belly, and then bring up to the edge and up round his tail. And then with my little girl, I'm going to give her a little roundness on her face, a little roundness on the top of her body, and I'm just going to pull down on her skirt just to get a bit of roundness in there. So that's a very quick job to do. Next thing is going to be to glue them on, but since I'm making this and I'm not having time for everything to dry, I'm just going to mat my topper first, and eventually I would put this onto a card as well. So I've cut, this was 14 by 14, my mat is 14.5 by 14.5, so I'm just going to use a bit of glue, which I have lost, there it is, and put that on first. I'm using pin flare. you can apply it quite thinly or a little bit thicker like I am, because then it gives you a little bit of wiggle time, and then when it dries it will dry without buckling the card, which some other glues do sort of make your card bend in a sort of boomerang fashion. So this is my glue of choice. There we go. So I've matted that onto a nice piece of sort of navy blue card. You'll notice in my samples that they were all different colours, so I've just gone through and used up some of my card, which is a really good thing to do. And there we have it. So now I'm going to get my two characters. I'm going to put my silicone glue in the areas that I rounded out. Oh, miraculously it hasn't dried out. Just as I did that, then I thought, oh, I do hope it comes out. So into their bellies, on their head, and so forth. And then I'm going to use my pin flare to put some anchor points that I'm going to stick directly to the card. So I'm just blobbing a little bit on the feet, the hands, and the bobble of the little girl, and the nose, the tip of the tail, and the paws of our dog. It just needs the tiniest little blob, and then we're ready to put those into position. And again, if you don't press down, you can maneuver your character, because the silicone glue won't hold, will take a long time to dry, but the pin flare will dry quite quickly, so leave that, press that down last. There we go. And our dog is sitting begging. What I'm doing is I'm just pressing the pin flare down once I've got everything in position, just to make sure it's less than that 5mm. You can layer up and do decoupage if you want to. I'm just being mindful of posting these in the UK, so I'm just flattening them a little bit, but the glue will dry and support the inside of those and keep them nice and rounded once it's dry. So there you have it. There's the topper, which I would then stick onto a 6x6 card, and we're good to go. So thank you very much for joining me today. I hope you found this useful. Remember, if you can't get these characters, there's lots of other things you can put in place on here, or you can just create the background and then do something entirely your own. So I hope you enjoy this. If you like what you see, I'd love you to subscribe to me and perhaps click the reminder. I've got about 32 videos now, all with different papercraft techniques, so there's plenty there for you to watch if you like what you see. Thanks again. Hope to see you soon. Bye.